Hello everybody, it's Aggie and welcome to episode 7 of DPSI with Aggie. Today's main feature is going to be a brand new segment I call Meet the Trainer, and in this segment I'm going to be interviewing course providers who prepare and tutor candidates for the DPSI examinations. But before we move on to this, I would like to do a very brief recap of last week's episode. So let's go. My last episode was about 5 things that I did well when I was preparing for the exam, and number 1 thing was to enroll on a course, in-person, hybrid or self-learning, finding a study buddy, someone you can practice with and go through role plays and scenarios, front-loading your work, so doing as much as you can at the beginning instead of leaving it for later on, visiting courts if you are sitting the DPSI law examination and familiarizing yourself with the procedures, the etiquettes, the what's and what not to do's when you come into a court setting, and also essentially vocabulary and expressions you may encounter. And last but not least, obtaining some feedback from a working, practicing linguist who also holds a DPSI. Today's guest in the Meet the Trainer segment is Mrs. Dorota Kowalska. She is the owner and one of the tutors in an online-only Polish school preparing Polish candidates for the DPSI examinations. The school is called Ja Cię Nauczę, which roughly in English translates as I will teach you. Mrs. Kowalska is an holder of the DPSI, a DipTrans and DPI. I will be talking more about these, so don't worry. She has been a working interpreter and translator since 1985, and between 1985 and 1993 she's been working for Polish translation agencies, and since the 1995 she has been working in the UK in courts, solicitors' offices, probation service, police, hospitals, local government, so roughly speaking anything and everything to do with public services. And between 1999 and 2000 she worked as a DPSI examiner appointed by the Chartered Institute of Linguists. And between 2002 and present, she's been providing the courses and teaching, and also working for course providers such as Sintra Cambridge, City University London, East Anglia University, DPSI Success in Bradford, SEMPIC, and also providing interpreting courses online in London. And between 2004 and 2006 she's been the translator at the Council of the European Union in Brussels, so she comes with some amazing experience and expertise. So let's get on with the interview with Dorota. We have our very first special guest today on DPSI Law with Aggie, Mrs. Dorota Kowalska, an owner of a school called Ja Cię Nauczę, which in English roughly translates as I will teach you, and she very kindly agreed to take some time out of her busy schedule to chat to us about her school and what she can offer. So welcome, Dorota. Thank you for joining
Agnieszka.
us.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. My first question is, in terms of languages, who is the target student, or who does Ja Cię Nauczę, I will teach you school cater to in terms of languages?
Well, basically, the Polish name of the school says it all. We offer our DPSI courses in one language combination only, that is Polish into English, English into Polish. We chose this name to attract Polish-speaking candidates.
That's brilliant. And would you say that it works?
Absolutely. In 9 cases out of 10, we get phone calls from Polish-speaking people.
Oh, that's brilliant. And when it comes to the teaching staff and the trainers at I Will Teach You at Ja Cię Nauczę?
Well, there are 3 of us, 3 lady tutors, and I think we are really experienced. We've been preparing DPSI candidates for quite a number of years, and not only for ourselves, but also for a number of several educational establishments establishments providing similar courses over the United Kingdom. All tutors are active interpreters, active translators working in the United Kingdom, not only, also doing translations in Poland, in Belgium, in France. All of us are DPSI, DPI, and DipTrans holders.
That's fantastic. Would you be able to tell us how long has your school been in existence?
We started the courses, to provide them, the three of us, about, 14 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay, that's a very long time. And you've mentioned that you have been delivering the DPSI prep courses on behalf of a few organizations. Are you at liberty to tell us
Yes.
which ones?
Yes, this was Sintra in Cambridge, East Anglian University. There was also, oh my God, I don't remember now, a school in Bradford. But yes, I'm talking about myself because my colleagues had some other different course providers.
So that's quite a broad range of clients that you have been catering. So that's really good to know. When it comes to the format of the classes, if someone enrolls on a course with you, walk us through what it looks like and what do the classes look like?
No problem at all. First of all of our courses are provided online via Skype. They are provided on a one-to-one basis, which means that there is always one student and one tutor at a time.
Okay.
Of course, the internet is very well developed at the moment, and it was so 14 years ago when we started. Its availability is great. So we were able to dispense with the traditional classroom-based method of teaching, which required the physical presence of students and, what's more important, traveling to the venue.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It was, exactly. That was absolutely terrible because I remember a situation in Cambridge. I had students not only from Cambridge, but also from Leicester, from Peterborough. Some of them needed 4 hours to get to the venue and 4 hours to get back home. So can you imagine the amount of wasted time?
Oh, that's just incredible.
Absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Yes, and I got this idea of doing something to remedy the situation. But coming back to the format of our courses, for example, our DPSI course, it's 30 hours of practical training during our internet sessions, Skype sessions. Plus, I don't know how many hours that the students have to study at home.
Of course.
Because, practical training is one thing and theory and homework is something else.
Absolutely.
So that's in terms of how many hours this takes. For example, these are actually individual classes. This means that our student tells us how many hours he or she wants to have, because all we tell them is, look, you've got 30 hours with us. But how you divide the hours, it's really up to you. You can have 15 2-hour-long sessions, you can have 5 6-hour-long session, or 6 5-hour-long session, and stuff like that.
Okay.
Plus, because this is individual, we also look at the person to see what that person actually needs from us. For example, there are students who need more sight translation.
Okay.
There are those who need more simultaneous interpreting. So it always depends on the person you're working with. What we do during the sessions is, of course, examinations task. For example, role play, sight translation, written translation, and theory is emailed back for the students. And they have to translate the text and email it back to us before the next session comes.
So you are focusing on practical tasks, less on a theory.
Absolutely.
And if I understood correctly, the students have to, within their own self-study at home, read, for example, theory texts, but you focus on actual exam tasks.
No, not exactly.
Okay, all right.
During the session,
Okay.
I focus on practice. But before each session, students get quite a lot of theory material from us. Yes, let's say 70 pages, 80 pages or something. And they have to read it with understanding. If they see a word they cannot immediately translate, they have to learn this word. So this is learning theory, but first of all, this is fishing for the words you don't know.
Okay.
This way, when the next session comes, of course, the role play will include the vocabulary from the previous theory block.
Okay. You've mentioned that you talk to the students about what the needs are. So you might be focusing, like you said, more on sight or more on interpreting. Do you offer initial assessment to someone? And quite a tricky question. Have you ever had had to say to someone, I'm sorry, but you need more practice, you're not ready to sit the exam just yet?
Okay, the thing is that it is not our standard practice to offer initial assessment because we believe that those wishing to do the course are already proficient in both languages. However, if a student specifically asks to be assessed, we can provide this, of course, no problem at all. Moreover, actually, our first session is also a kind of assessment. If we see during this session that the course is simply too difficult for somebody, we tell that person to maybe reconsider the decision to join the course. For example, if there are some grammar problems, we tell our students to revise certain finer, maybe not so finer points of grammar. But if there are major problems which require a lot of additional work, which we are unable to do because we are not a language school, we are an interpreting school, then we inform our students about the situation and what kind of impact it may have in the future. And then it's really up to the student to, for example, to stop the course, get rid of the grammar problems and restart the course at a later date, or continue the course and learn the grammar at the same time, or stop the course altogether. And yes, within the 14 years I'm talking about, I've had maybe 3 cases when I had to say, sorry, that's not for you.
Thank you so much for this honest answer, Dorota. I'm very, very grateful for this honest answer. In one of the first episodes, I actually mentioned that DPSI is not an easy exam to pass, in my opinion.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I'm glad that you agree. And it has to be approached with caution and full understanding that it's a big commitment. Would you be able to shed some light on what type of materials you offer for your students?
Yes, of course. As you know, there are no handbooks, nothing like this.
Exactly.
So we had to develop our own materials, starting from role-play scenarios, site translations, and written translations. We had to do it all. We created the whole stuff. Of course, we use past papers provided by the Chartered Institute of Linguists. But we use them very sparingly, for example, during our mock exams, because we want our students to see what to expect. Our role plays, the ones we wrote, are much longer. One role play is probably 1 hour or so.
Oh, wow.
But this is because we wanted to incorporate all necessary vocabulary. That's why they are so long.
That's very interesting. So would it be correct to say that you're trying to approximate the experience of an assignment? Because obviously an interpreting assignment is not half an hour long or 20 minutes long, more often than not, like the exam.
That's what this is all about. This is not only about telling, look, you've got to know this interpreting technique, or you've got to know this word. No. It's about showing them what it will look like in the future, the real interpreting life. There are absolutely no breaks during the class because I want to show the students what they are actually facing. I remember my own assignments lasting sometimes 7-8 hours, practically non-stop. Not to mention a short break to go to the toilet. But apart from that 7-8 hours, yes, working in a legal context, it was really difficult.
Sounds extremely difficult. And you've mentioned about mock exams. So within learning with Ja Cię Nauczę, you also offer a full experience of an exam.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, each session is a kind of exam because we do exactly the same things. Role play, site translation, and written translation is emailed as homework. Every session is a mock exam, but of course there is this typical mock exam with a past paper from the institute. So our students really go to this exam quite well prepared, I would say.
That's fantastic. I really like what you said about there being no handbook, and I've never thought of it myself. I enrolled on a course when I was preparing for my DPSI, and we got a loose syllabus of concepts and topics, but it was up to us to really to look for all the resources and all the materials. It's actually quite amazing, really, that there's not been a handbook, because this qualification has been in existence for 30 years. It's quite interesting.
No, which is why we had to create everything exam for our students because I can't imagine anybody attempting to take this exam without a solid theoretical basis. For example, look, I always ask my students, okay, what's the difference between nieletni and małoletni? Not everybody knows what the difference is.
Exactly.
That's why you create all those papers, you develop materials to impart this knowledge on them.
Sounds like a very, very in-depth bank of materials that you offer, which is wonderful. If you were to give 3 pieces of advice to prospective candidates, the 3 key points to consider when enrolling on a course or considering sitting the DPSI, what would they be?
Well, quite a lot of pieces of advice, but let me choose 3.
Just 3.
First of all, if you want to do the course and be successful at the exam, you have to have a lot of time to study at home. If you have lots of other engagements, responsibilities, or other time-consuming activities, which means that you're basically no time left, then think twice about enrolling because you will only spend your money and waste it.
Okay.
Because having no time to study, well, it practically means that you will fail.
Exactly.
And in this context, the money will be wasted. Another piece of advice, get yourself good dictionaries, and I mean good dictionaries, and by that, I mean bilingual dictionaries. Of course, monolingual dictionaries are very important too, but you see, interpreting is not about replacing an English word you don't understand with another English word, for example, upheaval and something else for it, distraction or something, because that would do for understanding, but not for interpreting. Interpreting is about finding the right word in the other language. So bilingual dictionaries are a must. Also, what I would advise candidates, do memory exercises to improve your memory. For example, record a short text and then play 1 sentence at a time, stop and repeat the sentence. Repeat the whole sentence, every single word in it.
Okay.
Then another sentence and another sentence. And this will improve your short-time memory and memory retention.
This is fantastic. I'm really, really grateful for this insight. I'm absolutely positive that our listeners, not only Polish candidates, will find this advice very, very useful, coming from someone with such an ample experience in teaching DPSI candidates and DPI and DipTrans as well. Just to learn a bit more about you, Dorota, what made you establish your school 14 years ago in the first place?
Well, as I said, when I realized how much time my students wasted on traveling, I said, no, it's high time I did something about it.
Okay.
And I had those 2 absolutely fantastic friends, also translators and interpreters. And I said, look, girls, let's do it.
Okay.
We've got the internet. Everybody else has got the internet. It's available just about to anybody. Let's just think about a concept when we don't have to meet people in person, but when we can still teach everything. And we said, okay, so the only way is to organize online courses. So this is exactly what we did. And we decided straight away that they were going to be on a one-to-one basis because we wanted to adjust the course to our students' individual needs. I mean, the date and the hour of a session, or indeed what they really need. For example, more simultaneous interpreting or more translation. And, if you organize an online course, what's really important, your student could be anywhere. Any town, any village, any country, any continent, even, come to think about. For example, today I don't feel like putting makeup or something like this. I can still work.
Exactly. It's such a powerful thing, the remote facility.
Absolutely.
And would you say that, does it have anything to do with your enjoyment about running your school? Because it sounds like you basically had this mission to save people's time and just make the learning more accessible, and more inclusive. Tell us, Dorota, what do you enjoy the most about running your own school?
Well, it's quite a question, I like offering guidance to my students and helping them to succeed. And I do it by offering them practical advice, showing them not only the tools, but also the tricks of the trade. I help them develop their knowledge, skills, competences, and I want them to believe that it may be difficult during the course, but after the course, one day, they will be professional and competent interpreters and translators. But the best part of it is that when you meet them as equals some years after the course, for example, you have a court hearing with several defendants, which also means several interpreters. So you meet them there, you can listen to their absolutely immaculate interpreting to think, okay, part of this success is mine.
Wow.
And that's the most gratifying thing a tutor may dream about.
This is so amazing. This is so incredible. It's just so rewarding to pass on the skills and to see your students flourish.
Yes, that's the point.
So I was going to ask you about your professional background next, but am I correct in guessing that you might be coming from a teaching background? Am I close?
I mean, teaching background, it depends how you understand it. My parents were teachers.
Okay.
That's probably not what you mean. I graduated from a university in Poland, but definitely not in teaching. It was just economics. And then I arrived in England over 30 years ago. And actually, I fulfilled my dream because I always wanted to be an interpreter. The university course I did, it was like something which doesn't exist any longer.
Okay.
It was called Handel Międzynarodowy.
International.
Which meant basically international
trade.
Foreign trade.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not only this, but also elements of diplomacy, of, diplomatic service, that kind of stuff. But what it meant, we had 3 languages during our course. So I got good bases there. And when I came to England, I just started using them, as simple as that. And I started being an interpreter first. For the first 2 or 3 years, I worked without a DPSI because it wasn't available in Polish at the time.
Exactly.
I'm talking about the end of the 20th century.
Yes, exactly.
And then I had my DPSI, Deep Trans, and DPI, and there I am. And
Wonderful.
Right now, I started sharing this knowledge with people.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Dorota, for sitting down with us today. I'm really, really grateful for your wonderful stories and your inspirational stories. It's just so wonderful to hear that teaching and seeing your students in action can be such a rewarding experience. So thank you again, Dorota. Dorota's Ja Cię Nauczę contact details will be available. So if you are thinking about DPSI in Polish, contact Dorota.
Thank you, Agnieszka.
Bye-bye. In today's Resource Corner, I would like to introduce you to an online course provider called FutureLearn. They have been around for a very long time and they've introduced some changes. There are restrictions when it comes to the length of how long you can access the courses if you choose the free version. You can browse the courses in this window here, and a word of advice, I would look for more general concepts, for example language, translation or law, because sometimes if you put something very specific it doesn't come up. Let me just show you what you could sink your teeth in today. This course is one that I actually took some time ago, working with translation theory and practice. It's very, very interesting. It looks at many different aspects of translation or interpreting. It lasts 4 weeks and you have to study 4 hours per week. Another course that you might want to look at is Introduction to the Rule of Law. Might be something very useful for the candidates wishing to sit a DPSI law examination. This is investigating the judiciary system and the rule of law in the UK. So the address is www.futurelearn.com. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you found it interesting and valuable. Next week we're going to have another very special segment with João Madeira, a head tutor in an online-only school, who's going to be talking to us about preparation, but also giving some fantastic first-hand advice to aspiring interpreters who want to sit the examination, or people who just want to see what the public service interpreting is like. So stay tuned.
My main objective these days is to make sure that when someone finishes the course, they're a competent interpreter and translator in general. Not a qualified interpreter, but competent interpreter. And what that means is, like I said a bit to prepare for the exam, but really that you know how to deal with problems. Because as you know, it doesn't matter how much you study, it doesn't matter how many jobs you've done, it doesn't matter if you've been working for 25 years, there's always going to be a job with something that you don't know, with a situation you've never encountered before, with something you didn't expect, with some terminology you don't know, always.
I would also like to take this opportunity to wish my fellow Muslim colleagues Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you again for watching. Until next time, keep safe, keep learning and keep growing. Bye bye. Tschüss, ciao, arrivederci.